All right. Hello. So for today's session, our fictional client is going to be a client named Rosario. Rosario is a Hispanic woman in her mid-50s who has two adult children who do not currently live with her, and she is also recently divorced from her husband. Her clinical presentation currently includes a low mood, loneliness, and hopelessness that have continued since her childhood, where she often felt alone and she felt like she had a big lack of emotional support from her parents because they worked a lot throughout her childhood to provide for her. Using a cognitive behavioral conceptualization of Rosario, her activating events would include her divorce from her husband and her two children leaving home. She no longer really feels like she's needed for anything, and that has led to a lot of the current feelings that she's having. So, since she has felt abandoned, she has started to think she is unlovable and that she will really always be alone. So, she's really not in a great place. In addition to being abandoned by her husband and children, Rosario has also started to lose her faith in her religion. She believes that God has also abandoned her for some sin. She can't really name the sin, but she feels like God has abandoned her as well. Due to these negative thoughts and beliefs, Rosario has isolated herself from the world and she has reinforced her own hopelessness and loneliness. She no longer attends church like she used to, and she doesn't participate in any community activities either. To begin helping Rosario in today's session, I will ensure the use of things like empathy, reflecting Rosario's feelings back to her, reflecting content of the session. So, showing her that I'm kind of understanding what she's saying, and then also asking clarifying questions to make sure that I really am understanding all the things that she's telling me. Additionally, I will use two CBT techniques, including cognitive restructuring. We're going to do this by putting her thoughts on trial. So, having her kind of think of different facts that support the thought that she's having, and then different facts that kind of go against the thought that she's having, and letting her be the judge of whether that thought is actually kind of rational or not. And then we'll also use behavioral activation with some activity scheduling in there. So, since Rosario is presenting with a lot of depressive symptoms, hopelessness, loneliness, things like that, getting her to kind of do some more activities throughout the day, maybe be involved more in her community, whether that be at church or something else, will really help to kind of bring her mood back up slowly. Lastly, I will kind of create a goal with Rosario for today's session specifically. So, something that I want to kind of get done by the end of today's session, and then also a goal that's more long term for the rest of our time together. Lastly, we'll kind of end session by hearing Rosario's experience of the session, how she felt throughout the session, and ensuring that she had a good experience with me as her therapist overall. So, yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and begin. All right. Hi, Rosario. Thanks for coming in today.
Yeah, thanks for taking me in.
Yeah. So, I read a little bit in the documents that you filled out, so I have a little bit of an idea of what's going on. But tell me, kind of from your point of view, what's happening? How are you feeling?
Yeah. Um, I guess it's kind of been a lot. I don't know, but like I have two sons. I had a husband. We just recently got divorced. He ended up divorcing because after we had like the two kids, I don't know, he just got very distant. And now my two sons, like they're a little bit older, and they went and lived their own lives. They moved out. They're getting into relationships. And I think I just feel very alone. And I think that's making me kind of sad. So I thought maybe just coming and like talking or working with you would help me. But I mean, I don't know, it tends to be this thing where people that I get close to leave. So I wouldn't really be surprised if that happened here. Like, no offense, but I think I'm just used to it.
Hmm. So it sounds like there's a lot of pain and a lot of hurt for you going on. I heard you say that everyone kind of leaves you. And so it sounds like maybe the loneliness is kind of coming from a place where you feel almost abandoned.
Yeah, I think abandon's a good word. I I don't know. I like my husband left. My kids are leaving. Even growing up, like my family would leave me. I'm Catholic, and even God is leaving me a little bit. And
Mm.
yeah, I feel abandoned, alone.
Yeah. So there's a lot of important things that you said that I want to kind of break down a little bit and think about a little bit more. And I want to kind of challenge you in some of those thoughts. How do you feel about that?
I I think it's good. Yeah, I think I need to be called out sometimes.
Okay. So, one of the things you said was that you feel like God has abandoned you. And I feel like within religion, and I know that you said you are Catholic and you're a strong believer in that. So it feels like that's just such a painful thing. And it's just such a big thing to feel like God has even left you and maybe doesn't care about you anymore. So tell me a little bit more about that. Like why is that coming up for you? Why do you feel like maybe God has abandoned you?
I think when I was a little bit younger, I I mean, yeah, like I went to church and I was more active in the church community, but then life got busy, sons were doing sports, and it kind of I lost some time for that. And I think I just haven't been feeling as connected to God. And I I think part of that is like if I'm not trying to connect with him, he's not gonna want to be with me. He's not going to want to, have that like connection, be there for me, watch over me.
Hmm.
And it's just very lonely.
Yeah. So I'm curious from your perspective within your own religion and the teachings that you've like read about and heard about, what does it kind of say about when you've kind of stopped giving yourself to God? Does it say that God leaves you or God abandons you?
No, it doesn't say that. Our church teaches us that like God is within us all the time. So, yeah, it may be some of my own guilt, but I think it's just another thing where it makes me feel alone.
Yeah. So I'm wondering within that, is there anything you think you could do to try to kind of reconnect to God? Anything that would make you feel like maybe you're not alone in that aspect and like you do have that connection to God?
Yeah, I think, and I've been kind of thinking about like now that my sons are gone, I have more time and I have more time to start going back to my church. But I guess I'm kind of scared of like what would happen? Like, would I be forgiven from God? Because in a way, like I abandoned him and he probably is a little upset about that too.
Mhm. So it sounds like you're feeling hesitant. You're feeling hesitant to go back because there's a lot of unknowns if you go back. Um, you said you don't know if God will accept you back, but I'm also wondering if you're maybe a little bit afraid of what your church community will feel like and if they'll accept you back.
Yeah, I do think that. It's been like almost 10 years since I've been
Um,
involved. And just, going based off of my Facebook friends, like they've all moved away. It's a whole new group of people. And I think part of it is just meeting new people. I think that idea of like being abandoned really just sticks with me and like people
Mhm.
not wanting to be near me
Mhm.
because they always leave.
So it sounds like you're kind of almost guarding your heart and you don't want to put yourself out there because of the possibility that others might leave you.
Yeah, I think I'm very protective of myself.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense with, your husband leaving you. That's a big deal. That's somebody that you entrusted your life with, your future with.
Mhm.
And to not have that anymore, that's really hard.
Yeah, I I just try to push through it, but it feels like everything's kind of just piling on.
Yeah, it feels like maybe it's too thick to push through now.
Yeah.
So, as I'm kind of talking to you more, I think one of the things that we can start to do in today's session is really kind of thinking about how we might be able to get you to think about your loneliness a little bit differently, um, and maybe to figure out some things that you can actively do to not feel so lonely. Because it seems like you're feeling lonely, but then you're also kind of afraid to put yourself out there. You're afraid of being abandoned again. And so that's kind of creating the cycle where you're going to feel lonely. Like you're not putting yourself in situations where you're going to be around others. Um, so, how do you kind of feel about that?
A little exposed. Like I never really thought about that. I always just like I prevent myself from going and meeting new people and I feel better about it because I know I'm not going to get abandoned or
Mhm.
rejected. But I never thought about how it makes me keep doing that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I'm maybe ready to like stop doing that and put myself a little out there, but I just don't know what to do, where to start.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate your vulnerability, and I do think it's scary for you. This thing that I'm asking you to do, it's not necessarily an easy thing. So I don't want you to think that I'm just like, oh, just do this and all your problems will be fixed. Um, because if it was that easy, I probably wouldn't have a job. So I don't think that it's that easy for you to just be like, oh, snap your fingers and everything's great. But I do think that that might be a good starting place for you to maybe feel less of like the loneliness and hopelessness and isolation.
Mm-hmm.
As humans, we're kind of created to be very social creatures. Research shows we don't do well alone. So, um, whether it be like giving your sons a phone call and seeing if they can do like a breakfast or a lunch with you, or calling an old friend, or going to church, just anything that might kind of get you into a more social environment might do you some good as far as like the current thoughts and feelings that you're having. So, either the options that I gave you or one that you can kind of think of on your own, what do you feel like is actually doable for you?
I don't know. Like, I miss my sons and I want to talk to them, but I also don't want to be that typical overbearing mom who basically you see the videos where they make fun of the moms basically dating their sons and they
Mm.
can never have wives. I don't want to be like that just because my husband left me. And I want them to be able to enjoy their life and enjoy the independence that they've been able to work for. So I think maybe just calling them once a week. I usually just wait for them to call me. It's a little easier. But I mean, granted, I am their mother. They have to answer my call.
So there's a couple things that you said there that I do want to kind of challenge you on and think about a little bit more. Um, so I know you said you're very afraid of like you don't want to be overbearing, you want to let them live their lives, like you've raised them, you've done your job, and now it's time to kind of let them like be on their own for a little while. Um, but at the same time, have your sons ever told you that you are overbearing or that you are like doing too much or trying to be too involved in their lives?
No, my sons have never said that to me. They've always been kind of like mama's boys, and especially with like their dad not being around too much.
Mhm.
So we've always been really close. I think I I can be too much. Like that's something that my parents would always tell me that I was too much and that my siblings were the better siblings and I had too many problems and that it was hard to take care of me.
Mhm.
So I don't want my own sons to also feel like that.
No.
So yeah, they never told me that though. And I'm sure that they would. I hope that
Mhm.
they would.
Yeah. So it seems like there's kind of some fear there stemming from your childhood, but maybe it doesn't actually match the situation.
I thought about it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard you say that, you're their mother and they have to answer your phone calls. So to me, it seems like every time you do call, they make time and they answer. Does that sound about right?
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't try to do that too much.
Hmm.
But yeah, I can call them, maybe even ask them like, would you be okay with us talking once a week?
Yeah.
But then that also kind of seems like I'm desperate for them.
Hmm. Well, just kind of thinking about it and seeing it from an outsider perspective, um, if they were too busy to answer your phone calls or if they didn't want to talk to you, I don't think that they would. So the fact that they are answering your phone calls when you call, um, maybe that means that they do want to talk to you and that they do, still want that involvement from you in their lives.
Yeah, their father was the complete opposite. He got so distant. So seeing that my sons aren't like that is very, very nice. I feel good in that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it seems like you're almost having like this push and pull kind of relationship with a lot of things going on where it's like, well, I want to be close to my sons. I want to talk to them. I want, a good relationship with them. But at the same time, you're almost distancing yourself from them because you're like, well, I don't want to be overbearing. I want to let them live their lives. Um, so it seems like it's very like opposites rather than having kind of like that middle ground.
Yeah, I I kind of think it's if I distance myself from them, then they can't leave me. Like I'm
Mm,
choosing to leave them, which I don't want to do, but I also don't want to keep like feeling sad about that.
yeah. So as we're kind of talking and the more stuff that's coming up, it seems like the things that you want versus the things you're actually doing, there's a big mismatch there.
Mhm.
Um, and so I'm wondering what might be something that you're able to do to get you closer to the thing that you actually want, which is sounds like that connection relationship, whether it be with your sons, your church community, God. Um, it sounds like you really want social connection, but a lot of your behaviors are resulting in isolation, which is kind of furthering that hopelessness and the loneliness. So, is there anything you can think of that you might be able to change in your own behavior to get you closer to the things that you want?
As you're kind of talking about this, like it seems like it's such an easy solution, and it's just like I just haven't been doing it. I just need to be social. I need to stop isolating myself. I need to go reach out and get involved with my church, regardless of how I feel. Try to build my relationship again with God, work on my relationship with my sons. And it seems like something so manageable to do. And I think it could help me not feel so alone.
Yeah. I mean, I think all the things that we've talked about are things that would probably help you, would start to kind of increase your mood, help make you start to feel better. But at the same time, I don't want you to think that you have to go do everything at once. Because even that can kind of become overwhelming to try to be like, oh, well, I know I need to do all these things and now I'm going to go do them all. And then now it feels like too much. Um, so as you're kind of thinking about like planning the things that you're going to do, I want you to maybe like create yourself a schedule almost of like, I can do this on this day at this time. And then maybe, the next day I have something else that I schedule. Because if you try to do it kind of all at once, it might seem like, oh, this is too much. And you might fall right back into those kind of like old patterns. So as you're kind of moving forward, I want you to start thinking about what might your daily schedule look like? What are some activities that you can put in there, maybe at certain points in time where you know that you start to feel down? So, for example, like if you feel like right before you go to bed is your hardest time of the day and you feel kind of really lonely, maybe schedule some kind of activity right before that point, whether it be calling your sons or finding like a church group to attend that's around that time, just so that we can kind of boost your mood um, before you go into that time period where you often feel kind of the most feelings or your feelings hit you kind of the hardest.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if I put it in the paperwork, but I don't work. Like I was a
Mm-hmm.
full-time mom, was. And yeah, I do feel like I have so much time to just be alone and not do anything. And I think now I've just kind of gotten used to being home all the
Mm-hmm.
time and I don't really do anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe scheduling and actually having something to do, look forward to also will help me feel a little better.
Yeah. What do you think some of those activities might be?
I think calling my sons, call one son, each son once a week on different days. Um, when I was younger, before I got married, I used to really enjoy gardening, and I have a giant backyard and plenty of room to garden. I just haven't done that.
Mm.
And I know in my neighborhood there's like a local garden where a bunch of the neighbors go and they have a community rose garden. So maybe even just doing that, doing things I used to enjoy, going and finding a church community that might fit me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I think those are all good, but I don't know if that's enough.
Yeah.
Like, I think sometimes I have too much time to be alone.
Mm. So I know you said that you were a full-time mom, and that was kind of what took up most of your time until your sons left. Um, so I'm wondering, like, have you thought about getting back out into the workforce or continuing your education, or maybe even like volunteering somewhere to give you like maybe more of that set schedule, that agenda, something to do with most of your time?
This might be a little off topic or out there, but I thought about getting a dog.
Hmm.
I think I really enjoyed raising my sons, and I think I didn't do too bad of a job. And I thought about getting a dog, or even just volunteering at the animal shelter and like looking at the dogs until I find my match. Work, I don't think I can really do that. I was in college. I was going for culinary. I wanted to be a chef,
Mhm.
and met my husband. Said he was gonna be all of these amazing things, and dropped out. So I mean, I don't want to be a Del Taco worker in the kitchen. I, I wanted to be a chef.
Mhm.
So I don't think working too much, but I did think about that dog.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, I don't think getting a dog is a bad idea. I think that would give you um, a sense of companionship, but also, um, you know, dogs can be a lot. So being able to, provide, take care of a pet, depending on what age they are, training, things like that would definitely give you some stuff to do and some stuff to break up your time.
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to like, what if something happens to the dog? What if the
Mhm.
dog escapes, runs away, gets sick? Like, I don't think I handled loss very well.
Yeah. So it sounds like there's kind of this theme of like you want to have control over other people or other things. Um, but thinking about it more logically, do you really think that you can have control over every person in every situation?
Well, no. Like, obviously, if something happens to the dog, or even like with my sons getting older, I knew there was going to be a point where they moved out, and
Mm-hmm.
I let them move out. But I think I just always wonder like what I could have done.
Mm-hmm.
Like with if I got a dog and the dog escaped, like, oh well, maybe if I did this,
Mm-hmm.
if I locked the gate better, that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Maybe if I made more time for my husband, he wouldn't have been distant and left me. My sons, they were gonna leave anyways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, there's kind of a lot to unpack there, right? Thinking about the kind of what ifs for the future and preparing, if you are going to get a dog, there, it seems like there's kind of a lot of things that you could think about in advance with that and maybe put the right precautions in place. Like, it sounds like you're already thinking about like locks on the gate and things like that. So, um, it does sound like you're already thinking about safety in that way, but the deeper stuff is the abandonment by your husband and by your sons. So we haven't really talked much about your husband or your ex-husband. So I'd like to talk about him a little bit if that's okay with you.
Yeah, he's something.
So tell me a little bit more. What kind of, how did your relationship start? And then, what led to the divorce in the end?
Yeah, so I met him in college. He was an accountant,
Mm.
and I was doing culinary, and there was a school event where the culinary students got to cook for people and kind of like give out the food and whatever. And he came and he was just complimenting the food, really liked it. And we kind of just started talking a lot from there, hanging out a lot, and things did move pretty fast. And maybe I'm naive for thinking like if it's the right person, you know. And I ended up leaving culinary school, and he always kind of made this like promise of, when we have a place, when we're married, like I'll let you open up a bakery. And that never happened. That's okay. He was always a liar. And I ended up having our first son. And because of that, because I wasn't working, my husband had to, ex husband had to go pick up a lot of hours. And he would come home, and I was tired from taking care of our baby all day. We ended up having a second kid, and I think that distance was just a lot.
Mhm.
And we were both at a point in our marriage where we weren't really talking anymore. We weren't making time for each other anymore. He was working to keep up with the responsibilities of the house, and I was responsible for taking care of the house. So we had a conversation and we decided to get a divorce.
Yeah. So it sounds like even the process of having children and raising your children, even that might have felt isolating to you.
Yeah, he tried a little bit in the beginning. Um, he always said he didn't want to be that kind of father and abandon his kids. But I mean, it's a lot having kids and having to provide for three people and yourself. That's a lot for him, and I understand. But I was always raising the kids. I didn't mind. I love my sons, but it did it did suck at points
Mhm.
where I got overwhelmed, and I would ask him after he got home from work, like, can you watch the kids real quick so I can go take a shower? And he was too exhausted too. So
Yeah.
it I wasn't a single mother, but I always felt like one.
Yeah. Sounds like you were kind of rejected when you asked for help.
Mhm. Yeah, it was always something with him.
Yeah. That sounds really hard.
It was. It was really hard, but I think it's okay. My sons, they're okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think that speaks to your strength and the things that you were able to do as a mother, but I don't think that that necessarily excuses your ex-husband's behavior either. Um, I mean, I know that you said earlier that you felt like your parents weren't really there for you emotionally and that you felt abandoned by them. Um, and it seems like within your marriage with your husband, that same kind of pattern re-emerged. And so now that you actually are on your own, it seems like you've put up this wall where you're like, well, if I emotionally distance myself from everybody else, then there's no room for me to feel alone, hurt, abandoned again.
Yeah, I think you're pretty spot on with that. It's kind of like I feel vulnerable right now.
Yeah.
I feel seen. Um, yeah, it's easier for me. I guess maybe I'm a little more controlling than I thought. It's easier for me to control being abandoned, being alone if I'm the one causing it.
Mm.
And I think kind of like talking about this, I didn't really realize it. I just knew I felt better that way.
Mhm.
But obviously I don't feel better. I'm here. So yeah, I need to stop being so distant.
I think it does take time to kind of rebuild that trust, though. Um, I mean, you've put up the wall because your trust has been broken so many times. So I do think like you probably did what was best for you in a moment, but now that has continued, and as you've gotten older, it doesn't seem like it's really working for you anymore.
I guess not, no. I think I tried to cope with the loneliness with my sons, and
Mhm.
I was always with them, and now they're gone and I have to figure it out myself and
Yeah,
keep doing it for me.
yeah. So as we're kind of coming up on the end of today's session, I think you put a lot out there. And so I appreciate you being very open and vulnerable with me. I think there's a lot of great work that we can do together and a lot that we can kind of continue to break down and talk about in future sessions. But I'm wondering, what did it feel like for you to kind of be here with me, to be in the session, to, um, different things that I said to you? How did it kind of go for you overall?
Honestly, a little weird.
Yeah.
I'm not one to really like talk. For other reasons we can talk about in our other sessions if you don't think I'm too much.
No, not at all.
But weird.
Yeah.
But also I kind of came into therapy wanting to be open and wanting to make change, and I wasn't sure what the first step was, but I
Hmm.
knew therapy was. And talking to you and kind of hearing about my patterns that I do to myself, it made me realize that I'm really just causing it myself. Like I am thinking away and I'm doing certain things because of that, and I keep feeling that way. I keep feeling abandoned.
Yeah.
And I need to just start small and do something to, you know, go back into civilization again.
Yeah. So I do kind of want to review your homework, so to speak, the things that I want you to do kind of before our next session. So we talked about you kind of scheduling some events throughout your day. You said, calling your sons, maybe finding some kind of community, whether that be your gardening community, whether that be going to the shelter, whatever thing that you choose, but trying to at least schedule a few events throughout the week to help you boost that mood at different periods of time. But within that, I also want you to kind of track how you're feeling. So, um, whether you write it down or keep like notes on your phone or whatever that may be, just kind of jot down whatever feeling you have before that event and then maybe even after that event, just so we can kind of compare and see what's going on for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that sounds great. I'm like already excited about having something to do. It's been so long since I've had something to do. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about that, and I think it'll be good.
awesome. Well, thanks for meeting with me today, and I really look forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah, thank you.